Hello, welcome to Radio 4's Consumer Programme. Today, the amazing story of what scam shopping sites can do with your personal data if you shop with them.
At one time, I had 83 voicemails, and I haven't got time, frankly, to clear them.
Some big charities are closing a lot of their shops. What does that mean for high streets?
If we're all going to need a car to go somewhere and do our shopping, I mean, what's going to be left here?
We'll also have a recording of the moment when one of our listeners was cold called and signed up to a club she says she never agreed to join. So do stay tuned for that one. If you'd like to get in touch, email us please, you and yours at bbc.co.uk, or send a text to 84844. First, the government's decided to give £440,000 to help 40 rural pubs in England expand what they do. The money will be used to create cafes and playgrounds and village shops and gardening projects, all centred on the pubs. More generally, there's also a fast-track review going on of the pub licensing rules, and the idea is to make it easier for pubs to stay open for longer and to serve food and host live music. Well, not everyone is convinced that that will help them. Phil Kiernan is the owner of the Farmer's Boy Inn. It's near the village of Longhope in Gloucestershire, and he told our producer Tom Mosley how he's doing right now.
We're basically on the edge of the Forest of Dean. Beautiful area, very rural.
What's it like at the moment trying to run a rural pub?
It's very, very tough. I've been in the industry a long time. We've had this one for 25 years, and there's not a lot of cream left in it. Minimum wage has really hit us hard. Everything's going up everywhere. So utilities are kind of going through the roof. We're getting hit by HMRC every time. Some pubs are closing once or twice a week, especially rural areas, because you've got to drive to get here. You can't run a business on 2 days, on Saturday and Sunday, which are still very busy. But these last few years have just been very tough. And there's no one helping us.
Are people drinking less? Are people drinking at different times of the day?
Yeah, I think the towns will do okay, because people go into town, because there's quite a lot of pubs in the town where they can drink. I mean, the drinking trade in rural pubs is gone. Even wine, it's food for us in B&B. If the B&B is busy, then we're okay. I couldn't survive on the drinking industry. I couldn't survive on pool teams and darts teams and stuff like that, which is sad. It's very sad. But yeah, you know, that really went out in 2000, as long as 2007, 2008 when the smoking ban came in. We've tried to be a deli shop, a wine shop, a pie shop, a tea rooms, but they'll go somewhere else. They go to a farm shop for that. Supermarkets, by the way, they have, I mean, think about it now, and garden centres, they have kind of taken a lot. And fair play, it's business, so they've taken a lot of people away from us. So it's a much busier market.
So that's Phil Kiernan. Well, he isn't the only one feeling the strain. The number of pubs in the UK has steadily decreased every year since 2000. That's according to the British Beer and Pub Association. It's for all the reasons Phil Kiernan mentioned. We drink less, we buy alcohol in supermarkets, and since the pandemic, we go out less in the evenings. Added to that, the typical small business in the UK now pays 70% more for energy than it did a few years ago. Kate Dearden is the Minister for Employment Rights and Consumer Protection. Minister, the hospitality sector has been really hit hard by the changes in the last budget, higher national insurance and higher wage costs. Do you acknowledge that?
Good afternoon, a real pleasure to be with you. I just want to start by paying credit to all our brilliant rural pubs across the country and acknowledge just how vital they are as community assets, creating those jobs, supporting local economies, and really providing people with space to socialise and come together in their community and at their local. This funding is I'm delighted to announce, working with Pub as a Hub, you do brilliant work.
That's lovely, I'll come on to that. So if you would, I will come on to that, but what I'd like you to answer first is just those points we've just heard from Phil Kiernan. And my question is, do you acknowledge that the changes in the last budget have hit pubs particularly hard?
I recognise the challenges and concerns that lots across the industry are facing and are working through from energy cost to business rates, and that they are major challenges for businesses. We are working and relentlessly determined to focus on delivering for our economy and create that wider business environment to give the business the flexibility and support they need to invest in growing, especially for our rural pubs, because they are so vital as those community assets.
So you're giving this 440,000, so that you're determined to talk about. Obviously you are, because it's good news. I mean, no one would be against that. These 40 pubs are getting this extra money, 440,000, and you're doing it, giving this as grant money through a not-for-profit organisation that was set up by King Charles 25 years ago now. Do you think, though, that village pubs can survive as commercial enterprises, or do you think they're going to need continued support wherever that support has come from? I mean, to go back to Phil Kiernan, he's tried everything. He's been a deli, he's been a wine shop, he's been a pie shop, he's been a tea room. He's still on the edge.
I hear his concerns, what he's been working through, whether it's, as you mentioned, those changes that customers now expect, and sort of how that's changed over time, particularly since the COVID pandemic. And we really want to make sure we can support pubs and local businesses to adapt to that changing environment. And this obviously is key in sort of all the brilliant work that Pub as a Hub do in providing those additional services. But I completely appreciate the challenges that many hospitality businesses are working through, and I'm really determined, and the department is, to work with them, to listen to them and understand what support they need to thrive, because our rural pubs are really key for that, for our local community when it comes to jobs and our economies, but also that pride in the place that people call home. So I really recognise the challenges that lots of pubs are working through, and I'm really committed to listen and to work with them as closely as possible as well, part of our wider strategy for our hospitality sector and businesses to thrive all across the country, and especially in our local communities.
Do you think that people who live in villages who want their pub to survive are going to have to help pay for that, and that you will have to provide more grants of this kind? That's what I'm driving at, that even with this grant money you're giving out, these pubs won't be commercially viable. They just won't be.
As part of our wider plan to grow our economy, I really want all businesses to benefit from that agenda, and we are relentlessly focused and determined to make sure that all businesses can thrive and support our local economies. This Pub is the Hub funding, and the brilliant work they do, spanning projects all across the UK, shows a real significant investment for social value, that every £1 invested in the provision of new services or activities, that there is that social value of over £8, and that really speaks to, I suppose, the role of rural pubs all across our communities. I met with John, the brilliant CEO of Pub is the Hub, who's done excellent work with rural pubs all across the country, really, really brilliant initiatives, and some of those that are difficult to put a price on because they have such a positive impact on the community and on that programme. We've heard some brilliant stories from them, and where they've supported those thousands more pubs in their diversification projects over the coming years. So I'm really glad that we are working with Pub as the Hub to look at different areas of innovation and support our crucial...
Do we just have too many pubs? Yes or no? Do we just have too many pubs? They're not viable.
I don't think we can ever have too many pubs. They're absolutely brilliant for our local communities, and I am sure I'm a big fan of my locals. And when we're looking at those over 20,000 rural pubs across the country, recognising sort of different circumstances and situations they're in, but crucially as those social assets. That's why we're absolutely determined to
I think you make that point well. Thanks so much. Kate Dearden, the Minister for Employment Rights and Consumer Protection. Now, this morning, thousands of people in the UK have reported not being able to use the HMRC website or to get onto their bank online. Others have been saying that their smart doorbells aren't working. It's because of a problem with Amazon Web Services. That's a computing infrastructure that those services rely on. Chris Valence is the BBC Senior Tech Reporter, and he can tell us the latest. Chris, what's happened?
Well, essentially, a problem with Amazon Web Services facility in the east coast of the US has meant that hundreds of different websites and apps that rely on Amazon Web Services have been out since about 7 in the morning. Things are now recovering. Amazon Web Services say it's fixed the problem that was at the root of this, and that while there are some knock-on effects as people sort of as these services spring back to life, that things are getting better, and we're seeing that in terms of the reports of problems to the website, the outage tracking website Down Detector. So things on the mend, but it does show how much firms really rely on a few big players in what's called cloud computing. That is, if you like, remote companies that provide, computing power, storage, processing remotely, are kind of like computing for hire services, if you like.
I mentioned HMRC. I mentioned banking online, smart doorbells. What else has been hit?
Oh gosh, I mean, it might be easier to say what hasn't been hit. So much of the web depends on companies like Amazon Web Services. I mean, we've had games, Roblox, messaging apps, Snapchat, Signal, reports of problems there. Just a host of things. Banks, Bank of Scotland, Lloyds Bank, Halifax seem to be having problems. I could go on. There's a page full of this stuff on the website, Down Detector. Game Fortnite, users were reporting problems. Slack, users were reporting problems. You can't necessarily link every single case of reported problems back to Amazon Web Services. Sometimes people, it could be a coincidence. Sometimes sites will struggle as everybody leaps online to see if something's working. But certainly, it looks like a huge number of services offline.
I'm going to put you on the spot now. How long do you think before it'll be back to normal?
Well, Amazon say they fixed it, so these outages can, we can recover from them reasonably quickly. I'm looking at the page on Down Detector right now, and I can start to see the numbers of reports declining on quite a few of these services. So I maybe give it a couple of hours. I don't know. That's a guess, but
Thank you for that guess. An educated guess. Thanks so much, Chris Valence. Obviously, the story's moving quickly, isn't it? You can get the latest updates on the BBC News website. This is You and Yours, Radio 4's consumer programme. It's 16 minutes past 12 now. As you may know to your cost, it can be very easy to get stuck in a subscription trap. A subscription trap is where you're misled into signing up for a subscription through a free trial maybe, or a special offer. It's been happening to people who shop from catalogues. We've reported on You and Yours how people realise they're being charged for membership to clubs using payment details from something they bought from a catalogue maybe years ago. So how exactly does that happen? Well, that's an important question, and thanks to one of our listeners, it's one that we can answer. Liz B from Leeds took the trouble to get the recording of a marketing cold call that signed her up to a travel club. She's been telling Tom Mosley what happened.
One day earlier this year, I got a phone call out of the blue offering me 3 vouchers and some sort of sign up to a travel club that I wasn't interested in at all. But the guy said he would put stuff in the post to me. And eventually when it came, I realised, or when I read it, I found that I'd been signed up without my consent for something that I didn't want, who was going to take money off my bank account. And it's not something that I would be interested in at all. So when I suddenly found that they were going to take money out of me, that was a shock, to say the least. So I started to look into this and found You and Yours had already looked at this problem before and got in touch.
Thanks to you putting in what's called a subject access request, that's when you ask for all the information a company holds on you, we can listen back to that phone call now, can't we? And we can try and figure out how you ended up being signed up to the Premier Travel Club, as it's called.
Yeah.
Hello? Hello, Miss B. Hi, Miss B. You're speaking to Sean. Just calling to let you know you're receiving £70 in vouchers in the post to say thank you for your previous purchases. All courtesy of Premier Office.
And he goes on to tell you that the call might be recorded, and he reads your name and your address out, so you know he's got that information on you.
What's this about?
These are to say thank you for your purchases from the Easy Life catalogue over the years. You're getting Tesco and Asda vouchers though. So basically, when you make purchases, your name just stayed on the system. The system just chooses randomly on who gets the vouchers. So today you were selected as one of the customers. So we're just calling to let you know what's coming through in the post and also how to redeem it. Right, so yeah, that first £50 voucher should come through in the next 3 to 5 days. So just keep an eye out for the post. As I said, with these vouchers, you can even use at Tesco or Asda as well. It's grocery shopping vouchers that's coming for you.
What were you thinking here?
I was just thinking, I strongly believe that there's no such thing as a free lunch, basically. What's going on with somebody offering free vouchers? I was sort of listening to it, trying to work out what was the catch. But if somebody wants to send me vouchers, then, and if they're of interest, then I might use them. But, I wasn't jumping up and down.
Right, as said, also on the same envelope, as a special reward for the family as well, we're also popping in a free trial of the Premier Travel Club, and that's going to give you discounts on hotels and flights as well. It's all coming for free.
So that's a special reward for the family he's offering there.
Yeah, not interested, but let him talk.
Did that be registered at the time, or were you still thinking about grocery vouchers?
To be honest, I wasn't terribly interested, so I was just letting him talk.
He did say it's all coming for free as well.
Yeah, my view was, well, if something's coming, I'll have a look at it, and if I'm not interested, I'm not interested.
But this next bit's quite important, I think.
Regarding that free program, if you find that you do like it and, if you want to keep it afterwards, there is an annual membership of £99 per year. But as I said, it's all coming for free for you, right? So even if you don't like it, it's absolutely fine. You just let us know during the free donated trial cancel, but you still keep the £50 voucher no matter what.
He's wrapping things up, isn't he? But then he does say, if you like this club, there is an annual fee of £99 per year. The line does go a bit funny there, but we think that's what he said.
Yeah.
And he does seem to now be telling you that you do need to cancel this thing.
That's the slightly strange thing, saying, well, we're offering you this, but then you might have to cancel it.
What were you thinking at this point? Can you remember?
My view was, well, I'm not going to sign up for this. So what's the problem?
So he then gives you the number to call them back, and he asks you to write it down.
Yeah.
Right, just put a dash and write £50 voucher. Right, put a dash and write 28 days, just so you don't forget. And the hours are 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Those are the times you can call.
Okay, fine.
Right, so no problem. So if you want to cancel, you just give this number a call anytime in the next 28 days, and you get to keep that £50 voucher no matter what, right?
Did you write it down the way he said?
No, I didn't write it down. I couldn't see the point of writing something down when I wasn't going to sign up for it in the first place.
What were you thinking at this point?
I was thinking we should get off the phone, basically. I hadn't taken enough notice of either what he was saying or understanding what he was saying. I was thinking, well, it's not something I'm going to want. They haven't got my details, so therefore none of this is relevant, really.
You might be thinking, well, I can just ignore it when it arrives.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't got my payment details.
Yeah.
But just as he's wrapping up, he tells you this.
As I said already, only should you wish to continue after the free trial, then only you be charged membership fee, just £99 per year, which we charge to provided with your order, with existing customers, so payment details if you purchase.
How clear was that?
Not terribly clear. Never mind.
Should we try it again?
Only should you wish to continue after the free trial, then only you be charged membership fee, just £99 per year, which we charge to provided with your order, with existing customers, so payment details if you purchase.
He seemed to speed up a bit there, didn't he?
Yeah.
I've listened to it a few times and I can't make out the exact words, but it's something about payment details from your previous purchase. So I'm pretty sure this is the moment when he tells you he's about to use your payment details from the stuff that you bought from the catalogue.
I mean, I didn't take that in at the time, certainly. And it's not easy to hear what he was actually saying.
It seems that that's how they're going to take £99 off you if you don't cancel this club. Pretty important stuff, I suppose.
Yeah. My main memory of it is that I couldn't quite figure out why he was so insistent about this phone number. Do you mind? And I was on the other end of the phone thinking, this is not relevant. I'm not going to do any of this. So what's the problem? I don't need to know any of this.
So in this last bit, he says, you're getting a free trial. It's coming for free. And after the free trial, if you like the programme, there's a membership of £99 a year. And if you don't like it, let us know.
Yeah.
What did you do? Did you cancel?
Obviously, I then had to wait until all this stuff arrived, which actually took quite a long time. It wasn't like we'll send it in the next few days. It was about 3 weeks before anything arrived in the post. At that point, I then realised what it was all about, and the fact that they were going to just take this money off you, in effect, whether you liked it or not. And I was really angry at that point.
Did the vouchers arrive in the post in the end?
Oh, no vouchers arrived. No, a letter came in the post with a leaflet about this travel club. And on the letter, which says, welcome to your Premier Travel Club, it says, oh, don't forget to claim your £50 vouchers, and you have to ring this expensive number in order to get your vouchers. So you weren't even being sent free vouchers in the post. You're going to have to ring and spend money on phone calls in order possibly to get some vouchers. So that didn't happen.
How does it feel listening back to that phone call?
Bit weird. Possibly the problem was, or not a problem, but I wasn't really interested. So I wasn't really taking a lot of this in. This just guy was rambling on about free vouchers and a phone number, and I didn't really concentrate much. It was fairly obvious once the letter had arrived that they were going to just take the money out of your account unless you did something about it, and that really made me angry. I don't think I would have realised that from the phone call. It was only when I read the paperwork and the detail that that then that became clear what was going on.
Lisby talking to Tom Mosley. Well, Tom can tell us more. So this is a free trial of the Premier Travel Club. Now, that was just slipped in after the offer of the vouchers. I couldn't make out any of the important stuff. The line's bad, as you said. Then he speeds up, doesn't he? And his delivery's a bit odd. So did Liz manage to cancel before she got charged for it?
She did cancel. Nothing happened for more than 2 months. And then that £99 was taken from her bank account. The company, Premier Offers, told us it took Liz's money because she cancelled too late, after the trial end date. But from the paperwork she showed me, I'm not sure that's quite right. However, either way, she then got back in touch with the company and it gave her that money back.
How did Premier Offers explain what had happened? Calling Liz out of the blue in the way it did?
Well, it told us Liz had opted in for marketing calls when she bought a reading lamp from one of its own catalogues back in 2023. And I asked why it had taken money like this using her payment details, and it said this travel club offer was what it called an upsell to her catalogue account, and it said that payments were processed through the same method as that reading lamp she bought.
But the marketing man who called Liz, Sean, he said she was being rewarded for shopping with Easy Life. Now, Easy Life is a catalogue. It sells DIY and household stuff, but it also sells the kind of living aids that are useful to older people. Now, Easy Life was meant to have stopped selling subscriptions like this, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. The caller did say the vouchers and the free trial of the travel club was to thank Liz for her purchases from them. the Easy Life catalogue over the years. And as you say, Easy Life is a very well-known shopping catalogue, and it has been heavily criticised over the years for signing its customers up to clubs like this. But as you say, we've reported on this before, and late last year, Easy Life told you and yours it had stopped selling these club subscriptions with immediate effect. Both it and Premier Offers, the company that made this call, told me the cold caller had made a mistake mentioning Easy Life. Easy Life said it could categorically confirm that it had not made any subscription club sales since the 29th of November last year, and Premier Offers told us it too no longer tries to sell club subscriptions to its catalogue customers either.
So where does that leave us? I mean, listening to that call, can Premier Offers really claim it complies with consumer law? You know, any contract should always be fair and reasonable.
Well, for example, the Financial Conduct Authority says your consent for a recurring card payment should be clear, specific and informed, or it's not valid. I did ask Premier Offers how what happened in that recorded call could amount to valid consent to take £99 out of someone's bank account, and in response it said the call should be to a much higher quality. The scripts and training provided require a much higher standard than this. Both the sales representative and the call centre are no longer contracted to undertake any campaigns.
Liz spotted this subscription in time, didn't she? She got £99 back pretty quickly, but not everyone would they? And those payments, we know, don't we, from other listeners, they can go on for years and years.
They can, yeah. And here's another listener I've spoken to. She's called Mary, and about a year ago a box of books arrived at her house in Warwickshire.
I didn't know where it had come from. There was no paperwork with it, and I thought it had been a mistake. Took the books to the Oxfam shop because they weren't the sort of thing I wanted. And the same thing happened about 6 months later, which I thought was very strange. When I told my daughter about it, she said, "Have you checked your bank statement to make sure nothing extra has gone out?" And when I did, I found that small amounts, between £20 and £30, had been taken from my account at irregular intervals over the last 4 years. Some larger amounts too. They had been taken out under the name, first of all, of Easy Life, and then later on by Premier Club, and in total, over 4 years, it amounted to between £400 and £500.
So Easy Life said you'd made some purchases from its catalogue, and you don't dispute that.
Right, I did. I don't deny that, yes.
But they also say that the telesales company called you back in February of 2021, and you'd agreed then to sign up to 2 of its clubs, the Supercard Rewards and the Book Club.
I don't know anything about this at all. I certainly wouldn't have joined any club. But of course, they shouldn't have kept the bank details. You know, the bank details should be deleted as soon as you've finished paying.
From December onwards, so these 4 payments, most recent ones that come to just over £100, Easy Life told us that these payments are nothing to do with them, and that this other company called Premier Offers Direct Limited called you on the 27th of September 2024 because you'd previously bought a set of books from its catalogue. Do you remember buying books?
No, I would never buy books that I'd never seen.
You don't remember buying books from the Premier Offers catalogue?
Certainly not, no. The only place I buy books are the Warwick Independent Bookshop, usually, and occasionally from Waterstones.
So they say they called you in September of last year, and in that call you agreed to sign up to their Puzzle Club and their Wellbeing Clubs. Any recollection of that phone call?
No, definitely not. I never heard from them, and if I had, I wouldn't have said yes anyway.
Apart from the purchases that you made from their catalogue, Easy Life say you've been refunded for everything that they took off you in terms of membership clubs.
My daughter was very incensed by how I'd been treated. She chased it up with lots of emails, and I think she also phoned. But the total amount that I've had back is £432.
How's all this left you feeling?
Very stupid for not checking my bank statements much more carefully. I have a lot of small amounts that go out, all sorts of things, some to charities and paying council tax and that type of stuff. And so it's an awful lot to wade through, but I realise that I should be much more diligent in checking absolutely everything.
Well, those are expensive books then.
Yes, and I did ask Premier Offers for details of those books Mary was told she'd bought from their catalogue, but Premier Offers said she'd been refunded in full and it didn't have access to any further information. Easy Life's told us that it has nothing to do with Premier Offers and it doesn't share customer data with it. We are still investigating this, so love to hear from people if you've had any dealings with these subscription clubs, good or bad.
That's Tom Mosley. Now, there are big changes happening with charity shops. Hundreds of smaller shops are shutting down. 1 in 10 high street charity shops has closed since the pandemic, and that is the biggest loss after banks. Cancer Research is the latest big charity to say it's closing high street stores. 190 will go over the next 2 years. Cancer Research UK is doing what other big charities have done, opening new superstores in out-of-town retail parks. So will shoppers like that shift? Our reporter Julian Pashkovich spoke to some people shopping in Chorlton in Manchester about it. Chorlton is a small high street with 7 charity shops. He asked if shoppers value them.
The odd one's not too bad, but when the high street's got lots and lots, I think it's too much. Some charity shops are deciding that they want to close. They want to move to these big retail parks. If that happens to some of the charity shops that you like to visit, would you make that trip to go a bit further away to find something?
Probably not, because then you may as well go Primark, eh?
How about yourself?
I think I'd have no choice because everything that I wear is from the charity shop. And it would be a shame because, it's got history on these streets.
Charity shops do add a bit of colour, a bit of life to a high street and make it still affordable for everyone. If we're all going to need a car to go somewhere and do our shopping, what's going to be left here?
I am fortunate enough that I have a car. I'm able also to cycle and get to the retail parks. I wouldn't go there purposefully. That said, the ones in the retail park, they have more furniture. So that's a pull.
Some shoppers in Chorlton in Manchester speaking to us on Friday. Andy Ricketts is the deputy editor of the charity news website Third Sector, and Mark Hodgkinson is the chief executive of the charity Scope. Now, Scope closed a big chunk of its high street shops this summer, 56 of them. That is 40% of all the high street shops it owns. So Mark Hodgkinson, if I could start with you. So like Cancer Research UK and other charities, you've closed shops because they are losing money. What's eating into your profits?
Yeah, well, just listening to your customers being interviewed then, I think customer behaviour is definitely changing. So there are less customers on the high street, and that's one factor. More of us are shopping online, and therefore, as charity retailers, having a strong online presence is important too. But the costs of running charity retail have really climbed dramatically in the last number of years. We want to pay our colleagues the living wage, and that has increased with quite high inflation numbers, and inflation generally has added costs into the high street. And as a charity shop, there's not much you can do on your costs once they start to climb. We have a very efficient model in the sense of a small number of people running the shops, great volunteers supporting us, and thankfully customers donating stock. So that's a low-cost model, but when costs climb, it does start to hit your profitability.
Well, a couple of those shoppers in Chorlton, they talked about the charity shops being like Primark, only even cheaper. Is there a problem with the quality and value of what's being donated to you now?
I think some of the donation quality has fallen away. There are very low-cost new clothing models, like I would actually call out some of the online brands like Shein, for example, which provide clothing at a very cheap price, new but probably low quality. And then I think customers, as they have also been hit by the cost of living, are looking to try and make more from some of the clothes that maybe they would have happily just donated to us before. And there are increasingly a number of online offers where you can actually sell that clothing yourself as a customer and therefore make some money for it rather than donate it to a charity. So all of those things are adding to the quality of donation that we may or may not get.
Andy Ricketts, why is a big charity shop in a retail park more profitable for a charity than, say, 10 smaller ones dotted around different high streets?
There's a simple economies of scale argument going on there, just in terms of a large store is much more cost effective for a large organisation to run. And we're definitely seeing many more large charities now moving into the superstore space. You mentioned Cancer Research remodelling its retail operation, and they are in fact closing up to 200 stores, but they're also saying that they're going to open an additional 12 out-of-town superstores over the next 2 years to add to the 46 that it already operates. Oxfam in 2019 opened its first superstore just on the outskirts of Oxford, and they say that the charity has seen the dwell time in terms of the amount of time people spend in the shop increase significantly to a normal high street store. And also people are spending four times as much more than they usually would in an average high street shop. So it's a good economic argument for these charities to do it.
We just heard from Andy, sorry, you're Andy Ricketts, aren't you? I'm so sorry, from our other guest. Mark, so sorry, Mark, I just lost your name on my script. We just heard from, I'm terrible with names, we just heard from you, Mark, didn't we, that you were saying that selling online is big for you. But interestingly, Cancer Research UK say they're no longer planning to sell online on these second-hand sites. Obviously it takes time, there's just not enough money in it. I wondered what you thought about that, Andy Ricketts. Is that going to go where you can buy from a charity shop but maybe through eBay?
Well, all of the major charities have online operations at the moment, and that's partly in response to what's going on with the rise of online retailers such as Vinted, which is seeing charities receive fewer donations from people because individuals are thinking, well, I might be able to get a few quid for this rather than giving it to the local charity shop. But it is interesting that Cancer Research is saying that it's going to move away from the online market space, because we are generally seeing a kind of trend across the other charities where they're saying that an online space is actually essential. Obviously, the high street operation gives you a presence, it gives you almost like a community hub where people can see you, it's almost free advertising, and being in that online space is probably now the equivalent for those larger organisations. So it will be interesting to see what happens across the board and whether other charities follow Cancer Research UK's example.
Mark Hodgson from Scope, just very briefly if you would. Some people never go to a retail park, do they? Do you think there's a danger that you'll lose recognition, brand recognition for Scope?
Yeah, so we're really keen to stay in communities around the country. So although we've halved our number of shops, we've actually ensured that the shops that we've retained are, in almost all cases, in high streets around the country. And that can be a successful model if you're in the right location and customers still want to come to their high street, which they do. So we've opened a new shop in Clapham just last year, which has been very successful. So I do think that it remains important. And I also think online will definitely increase. We've seen a 38% increase in online and a 41% allocation to our retail profit. So it's definitely here to stay.
We must leave it there. Mark Hodgkinson from Scope and Andy Ricketts, the Deputy Editor of Third Sector. Thank you both for that. Now here is a warning for you. Be very careful where you shop on the internet. Criminals run some fantastic looking but scam websites, and we've discovered that if you shop on them, some will post, listen to this, your phone number and your address as their company contact details for customer service and returns. Imagine it, the hundreds of phone calls you'll get from disappointed customers asking, where is my stuff? Some of these sites do send stuff, but it's rubbish. It's totally unlike what you've seen in the picture. So then the parcels start coming as people return this rubbish, but to you. We think this is a brand new, but growing problem. Our fraud reporter, Shari Vahl, has uncovered it, and she is here. So, Shari, this is something going on that no one else so far has clocked.
Apart from the criminals. It was pretty tricky to untangle this, but then a pattern started to emerge. And as ever, listeners got in touch into this, and it led to other people. Now, these people searching for things they wanted to buy on Google, the way you do, things like comfy shoes or waterproof work trousers or steel toe-capped safety boots. And what happened happens is a website pops up when you search, customers choose what they want, they put in their payment details and their delivery address and their phone number. But what the customers don't know is the criminals will use those delivery details on either their website or another one that they're connected with, adding them as the company contact details and the returns address. And it helps so much as it makes these websites look like UK websites with UK details and UK returns. Now, the poor person whose details are on the website is now a de facto returns department.
So listeners came to you in this situation?
Well, to start with, one listener came. She's a well-known journalist in her own right. And do you remember Frances Coverdale, the BBC reporter and newsreader?
I do remember Frances Coverdale. I remember reporting from Greenham Common. That dates me.
Yeah, and me. Well, she's fantastic, and she emailed us. Now, she got entangled in what we call the Great Knitted Cardigan Scam. We've talked about it here on You and Yours a few times, and it's where you buy clothes online, they look gorgeous in the online pictures, and then what arrives is very different from what you ordered. Now, Frances bought what she thought was a cashmere jumper for her husband last Christmas.
I found a website that had lots of very nice jumpers, mostly cashmere, London-based company. It sounded very normal, but it didn't come. After the new year, I contacted the company and didn't get a reply. I then looked into it and realised that it was a company based in China. Eventually, the jumper did come, and it was just cheap tat. It was cheap nylon material. I'd realised by then that it was a complete scam. Didn't think anything more of it. And then last week, I was looking for some shoes, and I Googled comfortable ladies slip-on shoes, and up came this website, and I thought it looked fantastic because it was sort of orthotic. They actually sold orthotic soles as well. And after 6 days when they hadn't come, I began to smell a rat, especially based on what had happened before. Went on to PayPal to see who had been paid, and again, it was a company in China.
But Frances didn't leave it there. She searched on the website where she'd bought the shoes and found a telephone number and address near Wimbledon in South London, at South West London, and she thought, yippee!
So I rang that number to say, look, can we please cancel this order? And got a chap called Scott who said that he'd had 50 phone calls and he had started getting shoes returned to him just in the last 3 weeks.
So poor Frances, poor Scott.
Well, scroll down to the contact details and the returns address on the website where Frances Coverdale ordered the comfy shoes, and sure enough, it gives you a mobile number and an address. And that phone number and the address in Wimbledon belongs to Scott Wicks. He's an electrician. Now, I managed to catch him while he was working, and he told me what was happening.
Probably about a week before the 17th of September, started getting a couple of phone calls here and there. Didn't think much of it.
How many people have contacted you?
On average, it's between 5 and 10 every day.
Oh my goodness, in about 30 days.
Yeah, it's an enormous amount of people that are ringing. In the beginning, it was a few less, but now it's like it's regularly sort of 7 or 8 every day. It's escalated as the weeks have gone on.
Now, Scott only realised what was going on when a company selling mobile phone contracts got in touch with him, thinking he was running a website selling shoes, and it had trawled him through on the online system and found his number on that scam site. And so it isn't just calls he's getting. Every single day now, people are sending the rubbish shoes they've been sent from China to Scott's home address.
The first one, we did actually take the package because my neighbour took it in because we wasn't in, which we've now told him that anything without physically our name on, don't accept. We've had probably 5, I think, that we've refused, and people are using it as a returns address. I mean, I was quite shocked. I wasn't surprised at the mobile phone number, but I was very shocked at my address being on their website. And when I looked up the site and physically saw it at the bottom as the contact details, I was like, this is awful. This could get quite awkward. I mean, if people are buying things and not receiving what they want and they live locally to me, there's a possibility they could turn up at the front door. I was really, really shocked.
So I asked Scott to open that one parcel that the neighbour took in for him, and he recorded himself doing it.
Underneath that label is the original label that was sent to the person that ordered this item. And inside seems to be filled like a pair of shoes. Look at these are obviously ladies' shoes. For whatever reason, this person didn't want and hasn't been able to send them back to the people that actually sold them to them. And they paid $38.99 for these, and they've returned it as they were too big.
Sure, you'll have tried to contact the people who run the website, yeah?
I have. Obviously, I can't ring them because the number that they list on the website is Scott's number. The only other way to contact them is via an email address on the website, and I have emailed them, and so far I've had no response. I know from other research that I've done that the shoes bought by the customer and returned to Scott were originally posted from China.
And sadly, Scott isn't the only one in this awful situation.
No, this is Rachel. Now, Rachel's a very busy doctor who lives in Kent, and I found her because her number is on another of these websites run by criminals. I just called her up, and I was extremely lucky that she answered the phone because Rachel gets hundreds of calls. It started for her more than a year ago, and at first, when the first few calls came in, she just ignored them, but then there was an avalanche.
In the end, I started to answer 1 or 2 of them when I was able to, and it turned out to be, ordinary people just wanting to inquire about a product that hadn't arrived or they wanted to return or something, and I couldn't understand why people were ringing me, and I would explain to them that this is my private number, I can't help you. But after a while, I decided to ask somebody, can you please tell me what you've bought and where you bought it? And they gave me the name of a website, which I then looked up, and I was very shocked to discover that on this website my phone number was down as the contact number. So I started to make some inquiries, and my husband looked into it and my sons looked into it, and we've tried in many, many ways to stop the calls, but we haven't been able to. So I now usually block all unknown calls that are not those from my contacts.
So was it just pure chance that when I rang, you answered the phone?
Yes, it was. I happened to be on a holiday and I'd happened to relax and I saw a number come up and I just thought, okay, maybe I'll see who that is.
Now, the only thing left open for Rachel, really, is to change her mobile phone number. And of course, she doesn't want to do that because she uses it for her work. So what she's done instead is put a message on her voicemail explaining she's not the contact for any of these shopping websites. It's still not stopping the calls, though. They are pouring into her voicemail. And it's so clogged, she can't use her phone to take messages from colleagues or other people she knows, which is a big inconvenience for her.
I can't use my voicemail, haven't been able to use my voicemail for months. At one time, I had 83 voicemails, and I haven't got time, frankly, to clear them. And there is no way that I can clear them in one go. When I pick up the phone, if I do, and somebody asks about something, I've got quite quick at saying, I'm so sorry, but the website you're on is a scam, and this is my private number. And then they're usually very, very apologetic and sweet about it and say, so sorry, oh, how awful for you, right, bye-bye, and put the phone down.
So horrible criminals, nice genuine customers. Is Rachel getting the return parcels like Scott is?
No, not on that website, because on that website they're using Rachel's mobile number, but someone else's home address, and they're getting the parcels.
So, Shari, how are these criminals getting Scott and Rachel's address and phone number in the first place? Must they have bought stuff from one of these criminal websites or a website associated with one or whatever in the past?
Well, that's what I set out to investigate by calling people on these shopping websites. So here's Martin. Martin lives in Henley-on-Thames, and he's also been getting calls because his number is on another of these websites.
Where you found it?
Yeah, I found it there, but his calls aren't about comfy shoes. His calls are about waterproof trousers and safety footwear like steel-toe cap boots.
Now, I've been quite lucky. I've only had 7 or so calls. And I did ask one of the guys, I said, how did you get this number? Because obviously 4 or 5 different phone calls coming in. He said, oh, your number is listed on the website. I thought he obviously made a mistake and called the wrong number, but it turns out that my number is on this website as the returns number or the contact number.
And it was only when I asked Martin if he'd ever heard of the website before these calls started coming in that he went and checked his computer and he looked at his emails, and then the penny dropped. Martin works in landscape gardening.
Working outside, I'm constantly looking for waterproof trousers and hadn't seen this company before and just thought, right, okay, these look like a good pair of waterproof trousers. So I thought, right, £50 worth a gamble. Paid the money, got the trousers, no problem. About 2 weeks later, I started getting phone calls from people asking where their trousers were.
So there you are with Martin, piecing it together for him for the first time. He shopped on a website, bought some trousers, and then they have used his phone number for their return phone numbers.
Exactly. And this only started for Martin just a few days ago. And I'll tell you, I rang him. He hadn't connected. The website he was receiving calls about was the website that he bought the trousers from. So after speaking to Martin, I went back to Scott, the electrician near Wimbledon, who's getting loads of calls and return parcels about women's orthopaedic shoes. Have you, by any chance, and this is going to sound really mad, bought any work trousers recently?
No, because my company actually supplies them, so I don't need to buy them anymore.
Okay, so have you bought any safety boots?
Yes, we have bought a pair of safety boots, actually. Our safety trainers.
Safety trainers. And where did you buy those safety trainers from?
My wife found a website.
Wow, bingo.
Yes.
That's where they've got it from. Right, okay, so they've got my details through that one, used it elsewhere, and probably done on that site, got those details, and so they're literally sort of leapfrogging on the sites with the people's details.
Yep, I've got 4.
At least I know how they obtained it, and it is starting to all link together. You've answered a lot of questions that I didn't know about, and it's nice to actually start putting things together, and hopefully we can sort of start shutting these things down.
So it was a relief then for him at least to know how they got his phone number and address. It wasn't plucked randomly from the dark web or whatever.
It really was, because nobody knows how they got my phone number. I'm not going to tell you the names of these websites, because of course Scott's phone number and address and Martin's phone number and Rachel are all over them. So I went back to Rachel. She's the doctor in Kent who's had hundreds of calls and they've blocked her answer phone. And it turns out she bought some comfy shoes about a year ago from another website, and she hadn't twigged at the connection. And I've also spoken to another woman called Cheryl. Now, she lives in High Wycombe, and she also bought comfy shoes last month. And 2 weeks after the purchase, her address and phone number went up on a different website, and she's had to start ignoring calls. As Scott describes, we now have a pattern of the criminals leapfrogging with customer details from one website to be the returns and contact details of another website.
Some of the stuff's obviously okay, isn't it? Because people keep it and they never complain. But they're all linked anyway.
I think they are. Even though this is completely new to me, I think all these are linked. So I went to Mike Andrews, who's the head of the National Trading Standards e-crime team. Now, his team has been working on tackling the clothing and jewellery websites, which look fantastic, but in his words, supply you with a box of tat. And I asked him if he'd seen customer details being used in this way before.
This is quite a new development, it would seem, and the tactic of using real UK consumers' details on other websites is a new and, quite frankly, a concerning issue for us.
And that definitely is fraud.
And absolutely that is fraud. So not only has the consumer been defrauded in what they think buying a high quality item and either they get nothing at all or a box of tat, they then now find themselves at risk of having their details used on another website that is then going to go on to defraud many other consumers, and unfortunately that consumer themselves is then going to be the recipient of calls from angry consumers wanting to get their money back.
And what can people do about it? I mean, the 4 or 5 people that we've spoken to in this investigation have really struggled to get anyone to get their details off these websites.
These issues should be reported to Action Fraud because, as we've said, this is a fraud. The pure issue of misuse of personal data without consent is an issue for the Information Commission's Office. So Nominet is what's called the domain registry for the .uk domain. So websites that end in .co.uk or just .uk, Nominet are the ones that are responsible for ultimately issuing and managing the domain names that fall within the .uk domain name system. But there are measures through, for example, if it's a .co.uk domain, where Nominet can take action if it's believed that websites under the .uk domain name system are being abused and used for fraudulent purposes.
Now, that's Mike Andrews from the National Trading Standards eCrime team, and I would really like to hear from anyone who's experienced this, be it phone calls or parcels or both. There's still a lot of work to do on this. You can email us, you and yours, at bbc.co.uk.
Shari Vahl, thanks so much. It's a phone in tomorrow. We want to talk to you about how your social life has changed since the pandemic. We were talking about it earlier with pubs struggling because people don't go out as much as they did. We want to be in bed by 10 o'clock at night. There's also less money around, and that is limiting people's options. So how has your social life changed? Tell us what you're doing, what you're not doing, where you go and why. You can email us about it right now, you and